Hey Bulldogs, Chris Bryant, CCIE 12933 here, and in today's combination CCNA practice exam and live lab, I'm going to present you with 5 questions on OSPF. We're going to talk a little bit about network types, a little bit about adjacencies, and a little bit about, well, you better stick around for that. But what we're going to do is go through the 5 questions in the exam at a pretty good clip here at the very beginning of the video. Then we'll go back through them. I'll discuss the answers with you, not just give you the letters for the answers. And also for a couple of them, I'm going to bring up a pot of live Cisco equipment so we can see the answers in action as well. Again, I do hope you'll join me online on Twitter, YouTube, blog, and Facebook. And we've got a lot of great additions coming up to the website, including CompTIA Network Plus, Security Plus, and Microsoft certification materials and tutorials for you. In the meantime, let's jump into this OSPF practice exam. What exactly do OSPF-enabled routers exchange in order to build their routing tables? Is it a routing update packet similar to RIP? Triggered update packets similar to EIGRP? Is it the SPF algorithm or LSAs? So let's go ahead and move to the next question. You can always pause the video if you like. It's recommended that which router or routers is the DR in an OSPF hub and spoke network. So first, of course, we got to know what that DR is, but should it be the hub, any of the spokes, the spoke with the most powerful CPU, or does it really not matter? And let's head on to question 3. In an OSPF adjacency table, what is indicated by DR other or drother? Is it a corrupted OSPF adjacency? B, that the remote router does not have memory sufficient to keep the adjacency. C, that the router is neither a DR nor a BDR. Or D, none of the above. Don't you hate none of the above? Me too, that's why I put them in there. Let's see, short answer question here. What term unique to OSPF is used to describe the metric of a path? There's a hint, it's one word actually. And then finally, what action is needed to change an OSPF router's RID after running the router ID command? Do we need to do nothing, reload the router, clear the OSPF processes, or erase the startup and running configs? And as always with my multiple choice, it's choose all that apply. Yeah, I hate those too, but you got to get used to them. So let's go back through those questions. Like I said, I'll bring up the equipment here in a moment. I've got a small OSPF network already running so we can see a couple of these answers in action and maybe throw in an extra couple of tips while we're here. So what exactly do OSPF-enabled routers exchange in order to build their routing tables? What they're actually exchanging is D, those link state advertisements, LSAs. OSPF-enabled routers really do not exchange routing updates like we see with RIP and like we see with EIGRP when we run the debugs and we can actually see the routes inside the packets. You can't do that with OSPF. And you want to watch this one because while OSPF does use the SPF algorithm, it's not actually exchanging the algorithm. That's what it uses to build the routing tables, but what they're exchanging are those link state advertisements. Now, which router or routers should be the DR, the designated router, in an OSPF hub and spoke network? And this really should be A. You should make your hub the designated router in any hub and spoke network, because then you know that your designated router can reach all of the other routers in that area with the multicast. Because if we allow a spoke to become the DR, that's not necessarily true. And what you can do, let me just give you a little reminder here. This wasn't on the exam, on your practice exam here. But what you do with that, I've got routers 1, 2, and 3 here, with router 1 being the hub and 2 and 3 being the spokes. And how you can work that, let me see if I have it saved here. Notice the IP OSPF priority 0 command here on serial 0 on the spoke. That disqualifies that interface from taking part in the DR and BDR election. Remember that default priority is 1. So to disqualify an interface from taking part in an OSPF DR BDR election, you simply set its priority to 0, and note that you do that at the interface level. You do not do it under the OSPF configuration. So let's take a look at question 3. What is a DR other? Well, we just saw that actually, but I'll bring that back up. We saw it very quickly actually. Let me go to router 2 here, and we'll run show IP OSPF neighbor. And notice that we don't see a DR other here. So we're not actually necessarily going to see them every single time. But let's go up to router 1, which again is our hub router in our little network here. And you'll notice that we do have a couple of DR others. And it sees routers 2 and 3, the spokes in this hub and spoke network, as a DR other. That simply means that that particular neighbor is neither the DR nor the BDR for that particular network segment. That's all it means. So it's not anything really bad, and it's not something you're necessarily going to see on every router. But you'll definitely see it on a hub router when you've got a hub and spoke network and you've got the hub set as the DR as you should. Again, that DR other term simply means that it's neither the DR nor the BDR for that particular segment, that neighbor that is. And the term unique to OSPF used to describe a path's metric is cost. It's just that simple, C-O-S-T, the word cost. And then finally, we want to see this one in action definitely. What action or actions are needed to change an OSPF router's RID after running that router ID command? So let's take a look at that router ID command. And let's just do a show IP OSPF. We got a lot of information with this. And what we're actually most interested in right now is seeing that router 1's RID, the router ID, is 172.12.123.1. So let's just say, for fun and giggles, we want to change that to all ones, 1.1.1.1. We're going to go under the OSPF config here, and again, for the CCNA, you do not need to know what all of these do yet, so don't panic. But what we should know is this router ID command, router ID for this OSPF process. And as you know, most of the time, when you enter a command on a Cisco router, especially in global config mode, but really interface mode, when you put an IP address on an interface, you don't have to do anything to it to make that address take effect. So it's rare that you really have to reload a router to make a Cisco command take effect, so you know that I'm leading up to something here, right? And you see immediately that we get a message that tells us that we've either got to reload the router or use the clear IP OSPF process command for that to take effect. So that's pretty interesting. So it's not one of these commands where you just set it, run it, and you're done. Now, you know how to reload a router, of course, just type the word reload at the enable prompt. But what we're going to do here, actually I'll go out all the way. I want to show you this command, clear IP OSPF process. Now what this does is it is going to tear down every existing adjacency that you have. And you'll notice here in the router's warning that you're about to do something pretty severe. Because notice it even yells at you a little bit, reset all OSPF processes. Are you sure this is something you want to do? And just a real world word of warning here. Anytime that you see the brackets, which of course are prompting you for an answer, when you see the word no in there, it means you're about to do something serious, because the default answer to this question right now is no. So if you actually want to do this, you've got to type in the word yes. And we did that, and you can see the adjacencies were immediately torn down. Now, of course, in a lab environment, didn't really matter, but this isn't something you want to do in a production network, especially while people are on the network producing. But we're not going to hang around for that adjacency to come back up, because we do have the 10-minute time limit here with YouTube and some other video sites. But in about another minute, that adjacency will come back up, and you'll see that the router ID was actually changed. But again, if you're using that router ID command, you've either got to reload that router or you've got to clear your OSPF processes, and it's going to clear every single one that you're running. Thanks for taking this particular exam. We've got plenty more coming up already, of course, on the YouTube section and on the blog as well. Every single day I've got new videos for the CCNA and or the new CCNP exam. So thanks again for joining me here. I'm Chris Bryant, CCIE 12933.